Our next presenter this evening, Frances Cannon. Please welcome Frances to the stage with her presentation on the art of translating science.
Hit it. So I'm here to talk about the art of translating science, and specifically how creative writing and visual art can bring science and nature research to a more broad and diverse audience. Many of the paintings in my presentation revolve around a project that is called Floruli Iconis, and I do not speak Latin. Who does? So I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I definitely looked it up on Google like 10 times today just to make sure I could approximate the pronunciation, but it doesn't matter. Basically, the project is to create flower icons, which is the translation of Floruli Iconis. And these flower icons are not just going to be about flowers, but they are my passion and inspiration and witnessing of nature and science in Vermont and tracking changes over time, including dipping back into historical surveys of biodiversity in Vermont. And so these paintings are basically each small icon. They're each 3 inches by 3 inches. And they include some common names, although common names can be slippery. And so I usually just pick my favorite common name and then include the Latin binomial, which is just easier to identify internationally. And also with a written description, which I haven't included because you wouldn't be able to read them fast enough, but they're just also short, basic descriptions of habitat and characteristics of each species. And we're trying to paint, it may take 50 years, but I'm trying to paint a representation of a species from each genus of flora, fauna, and fungi, and lichen. I don't know. My passion holds no bounds. But, and it's just bit by bit, species by species. But the goal is to compare these drawings and descriptions to biodiversity surveys taken by botanists and biologists backwards in time, to track the changes in populations, including invasive species, and also the way that certain species have changed due to the climate crisis and changes in the climate and ecology. So several of these botanists that I'm thinking of reflecting upon their collections, so going all the way back to Cyrus Pringle about 100 years ago, and then Nellie Francis Flynn, and Hub Vogelman more recently, and they all took surveys, but also took very intricate notes about the place and the context for the species that they collected. So that's the hope for this project. But now I'll take a step back and say, I am not a scientist. So what am I doing here trying to describe translating science? I'm also not a translator, so to speak, but I think anyone could be, because translation is not transcription. Translation is a creative act. And so my translation is observing and researching science and nature, and then through my background, which is creative writing and visual art, communicating to a more broad audience, and also through storytelling, comics, paintings, and other hybrid text and image things. I don't know. Poems, essays, books that I produce, hopefully connecting more people and bridging the humanities and the sciences, so the natural sciences and hard sciences, through storytelling and art making. And this is just a simple example of some of the comics where I combine text and image. And I call them comics. I mean, it's just a shorthand for saying something that combines storytelling and description and research. And they're all nonfiction, so it doesn't matter the form that it takes, but they're all truth, so to speak, about science research that I conduct and then translate into more creative forms. Currently, I am doing this at Kenyon College. I just got a fellowship there to study and teach science and nature writing. And I it is a strange position because it is straddling somewhat awkwardly the English department and all sciences. So I am in creative writing, and that's where I house the classes that I teach. But then I'm also connecting with biology and physics and chemistry and medical sciences and food systems, and hopefully bringing students in from all of these disciplines, and then teaching them my craft of creative writing and how they can communicate science writing to all sorts of different types of contexts, and hopefully fewer paywalled, inaccessible articles in academic journals that are really hard to access and for a lot of people really hard to understand, including myself. So selfishly, I want science to be more accessible, and I also want it to be more fun. So that's what I'm doing with my work. One of the projects that I am working on at Kenyon College is to try to bring together creative writers, queer theorists, botanists, biologists, mycologists to inquire about queerness in science. And my current working title for this future anthology is Queer Flora, Fauna, and Fungi. So if you are researching this and writing about this, come talk to me because I could put you in my book. But for me, it's also just about passion and interdisciplinarity and kind of a cross-pollination of I am hoping to bring voices together and disciplines together and break down the barriers between academic disciplines and a more general popular audience through my art and writing, thus translating science. Thanks.